Like to have you. It's also a pleasure to have our political panel joining us now to discuss a full plate of issues to dig into about politics and what's happening. Let's get started. I'm joined by Brittany Lee Lewis and Raynard Jackson. Both are political strategists here in the nation's capital, Washington, D.C. Let's begin with Vice President Kamala Harris, who, as you know, is representing President Biden and the nation as she meets with the president of Mexico in Mexico City. She just finished a trip to Guatemala. The vice president meeting with him yesterday, and the topic of both summits, well, it's been about migration from Central America. Brittany, I'll begin with you. Vice President Harris is getting hard questions about why she has yet to visit our southern border as she takes the lead on immigration for the administration. Is that a fair question to ask, and even as she makes the trip to the region?
Well, I mean, I do think it is a fair question to ask, and I think it's important that she's present to see the issues that are happening on the ground. We know that there are tent cities there. There's tons of corruption that's taking place. People are being kidnapped. It's imperative for her to know what's going on. But I think that her claim essentially is the reason why she's not going there is because she's trying to address the root causes for why people are coming to the border. She's trying to, quote unquote, get to the heart of the issue, if you will, which, to be honest, I find rather ironic, since many of the issues that we're seeing take place and have been taking place in South America are largely to blame for the United States foreign policy and influence over the last half century.
Raynard, what's your take on this? I mean, she did respond to the question about why she hasn't personally been to the border with saying, we've been to the border. She doesn't understand why we have to keep talking about the border. And to Brittany's point, she went to Guatemala and Mexico City to start dealing with building relationships to tackle the root causes that causes people to flee to the border in the first place.
Be very clear about this. The reason the vice president has not gone to the border, the political issue, she does not want Republicans to have a photograph of her at the border dealing with a problem that was self-inflicted, and that's why she's not going. She's worried about 2024 and 2028, her bids for the presidency, and that is the sole reason why she has not gone to the border, because she is terrified that Republicans will use the photo ops to beat her up during a campaign. And that's a shame that she would put politics before policy, because this policy is self-inflicted, came about January 2020, or 2021 rather. That's why we have the problem we have at the border now. Before she came into office, the border was pretty much under control.
To appear very satirical, I can't believe that politics would ever enter into a vice president's mind. But having stated that, Brittany, what about the notion that she is being set up to fail, speaking of politics, on immigration, which, of course, is a very tough issue for anyone to find a solution to, particularly Republicans and Democrats. They've had years to do this since Ronald Reagan. So what is going on, and what kind of role does she have to play dealing with the political nature of this?
Yeah, well, you know, it's interesting. I actually think that one thing both sides of the aisle agree on is the immigration issue to a certain extent. The United States is deeply entrenched and responsible for what is happening in South America. And while it's true that the force is driving ordinary people to leave their homes and put their lives at risk by crossing, the desert with smugglers because of inequality and violence, that inequality and violence has been made possible and defined by the role that the U.S. has played essentially as an empire, looking to increase profits by any means. I mean, we can look at Guatemala specifically. The issues in Guatemala trace back to the long civil war, which is in many ways started in 1954 coup against a democratically elected president. This coup was backed by the CIA, and they helped install the first of many right-wing and violent dictators. Washington is responsible for the Guatemalan military essentially committing genocide against its native population, and we're talking 200,000 people between 1960 and 1966. And not only was this done for the ideological purpose of stopping communist ideals, but the CIA, of course, had been approached by the United Fruit Company as it saw possible loss in profits due to the workers' revolt and the creation violation of anti-exploitation laws, which affect U.S. profits. So, and that's just one of numerous examples I could provide as a historian to demonstrate the role the U.S. has played in destabilizing South America. So again, it's irresponsible for the United States to take such an active role in creating these conditions that make people want to flee, and then profess shock when they, actually do come here, and then of course tell them that they're not welcomed. They've, in many ways, both sides of the aisle have created this issue.
Raynard, I need to get your response on that because, to Brittany's point, historically, those facts bear a lot of credence to everything that's been going on there in Guatemala, as well as El Salvador, Nicaragua, the Northern Triangle. So what do you make of that?
Well, I mean, Brittany, I love you and all, but I mean, for you to blame the victim, i.e. the U.S., what you're saying historically is accurate as far as the U.S.'s role in the geopolitical state of affairs there, but there's no way I'm going to take the blame for these presidents sending their people, the least of their countries to the U.S. We don't have an immigration problem. We have an enforcement problem. All we need to do is have our U.S. political folk enforce the laws that are on the book. Like we say back home in St. Louis, where I'm from, these illegals don't have to go home, but they got to get the heck out of here, and we need to remove the 30 million illegals we have here, because that is not our burden of responsibility. We have black veterans. We have black folks who are unemployed, living on the streets, homeless, vets coming back from the war. We need to focus on taking care of our family, and then if we so desire, we can help those who are among the least of these. But the Central America and the Golden Triangle, that's not our issue.
All right, look, we're going to take a break. I don't want you two to go anywhere. We want our audience to know that we're going to take a quick pause for the cause here for a quick break. And there's more to discuss with our political panel right after the break. We'll return with The World Tonight. And so we are following the Vice President's remarks with the return of our political panel. Welcome back, everybody. Brittany Lee Lewis is with us now, and Raynard Jackson. They're both political strategists here in the nation's capital, one representing Democrats, the others representing the Republicans. Look, today the Senate produced a bipartisan report on the January 6th riot that has some people scratching their heads. It's, of course, a lot of people are talking about it being more than a riot, but a domestic terror attack, an unsuccessful insurrection. What did you make of the report, Brittany, and does it matter that former President Trump's role was not discussed or put into this report?
Yeah, it certainly does. I mean, at this point, we truly need to fully deal with January 6th in its full capacity. And that goes from the president on down. And it's so interesting to know that so many of the Republican Party were a part of this effort and have really tried to sanitize and whitewash the history there. They essentially tried to stop the certification of votes with violence. And it was more than just a riot. This was an insurrection. This was truly unprecedented. It was on the front page of every newspaper worldwide. It's not because this was a normal tourist visit. There were nooses, people were injured and killed. Several folks have been indicted on serious federal charges. So with that being said, it's imperative that we are truly taking this seriously. We are considering it an insurrection, not just solely a riot. And we need to have President Trump included in that because so many of the people who were present on January 6th were there because he called for them to do so.
Raynard, look, this attack didn't happen out of the spontaneity of just saying, hey, let's go to the Capitol and have a nice tourist visit. As you see the video, it's very, very disturbing for any American who's proud of his or her country to watch that and then walk away and saying it was just a tourist visit, as one Republican senator stated. I want to get your take on this. What do you think is going on? Why wasn't the president and those who talked at that event leading up to the riot not discussed in this report?
Well, I have two takes on this, Kelly, and I think, Brittany, that we're losing focus on the central issue, and the central issue is, number one, you had a bunch of grown men and women who went to a speech by President Trump, and there's no way I'm going to accept that because of whatever Trump and other speakers said, they caused a grown man and women to go do what they did at the Capitol. If these were some high school students or college students, maybe I'll buy that argument. These are grown men who made grown men's decisions, and they have to pay the price, number one. Number two, the real point here is not whether Trump is included or not, but this is the issue of our intelligence systems, once again, failing, almost reminiscent of 9/11. The Capitol Police was warned about this weeks in advance. They did nothing with the intelligence. Even on the day of the event, they were receiving real-time intelligence, and they did not share it with their fellow law enforcement colleagues. So to me, that's where the focus should be, is why is our intelligence community and law enforcement continuing to put up these walls of separation where they don't talk to each other? This could have been avoided if the intelligence community had shared the data amongst themselves and acted proactively, as opposed to waiting until after the riots had begun. That's the central issue in my view.
I hear you, Raynard, I hear you, but in full disclosure, the FBI field office in Norfolk, Virginia did warn the Capitol Police. The Capitol Police failed to act on that intelligence, but the intelligence was shared,
exactly,
and there was concern. That's why the mayor wanted something more other than a traffic contingent for controlling traffic with the National Guard. She wanted more boots on the ground to defend the Capitol as well as the city. Now, so Brittany, to Raynard's point of what he's talking about, this is one of the reasons why so many people are perplexed as to why there's no independent commission that the Republicans voted against. So what's going on here? Should this independent commission be enacted from all of congressional members to really get to the bottom, to the root cause of this, and look at everybody, including the former president, including his attorney, Rudy Giuliani, and including all of those people, as Raynard was saying, adult men and women who stormed the Capitol? I just want to know your opinion about this.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's very clear that everyone should be held responsible. And we're not dummies here. We know that if these were Black folks, the law enforcement agencies would have been present in full force. But many of the ideologies that are driving both the president's rhetoric as well as all of the people that storm the Capitol, those ideologies are present within the military forces, within the National Guard, within the police forces, and with obviously many on both sides of the aisle, but particularly within the Republican Party. So why would they stop this from happening? We still have people today essentially saying, you know, the reason why they were storming that Capitol was because they believed that the election was rigged and that it was not fair. So to them, it makes sense. They truly believe that they are fighting against they're fighting for the goals of America, right? To go up against tyranny in an unfair election. So, of course, they're not. Why would they do a commission or want to put a commission together to invest their own actions and things that they truly believe in? We had 126 Republican members of the House of Representatives that contested the election results. There was even 12 Republicans in the House who voted against H.R. 1085 to award 3 congressional gold medals to United States Capitol Police who protected the U.S. Capitol that day. So why would they want to move forward with these efforts? Essentially, I don't think anybody wants to investigate themselves, and you can bet your bottom dollar that, again, if these were folks that were from Black Lives Matter or just Black folks in general, that it wouldn't even be a question about creating an independent investigation.
Well, they would have never made it to the steps to begin with if that was the case. Raynard, look, we've got to get ready to go, but I need to ask you real quickly, what are the Republicans afraid of? Why won't they go with this investigation?
Well, number one, I don't think Congress, both sides of the aisle, is capable of investigating themselves. Why don't we have people like my former senator from Missouri, John Danforth, head up a blue ribbon commission that's bipartisan? Because things are so political, Brittany and Kelly, that I can say the sky is blue. You're going to get Democrats going to argue with me and vice versa on the Republican side. So we need a true independent investigation if seeking the truth of what happened is your goal. But right now, let's face it, both parties are playing politics with this issue, and based on that, we will never know what really happened.
Well, Raynard Jackson and Brittany Lee Lewis, I want to thank you both for being part of this discussion. It's an important discussion and one worth having, and of course, it's not over yet. Thank you.
Thank you.